The wrap-up meeting of the police chief's selection review committee for Thursday, September 14th, 2023, at 5:35 p.m. So we'll call the meeting to order, and we do have a quorum, and entertain a motion for approval of the August 30th.
So moved.
Moved by Albert, second by Keith. Doc Keller. Okay, Doc Keller. Any questions, concerns, or any additions or subtractions? If not, all in favor? Aye. Thank you for that. New business. What we're going to do this evening is just wrap up what we have done since January. What I did is I emailed you all a recap a few days ago for you to review and whatnot. And I more or less try to go through our notes and also a lot from memory of what we have done since January of this past year up until tonight. And it gave like an overview. So I'm just going to give an overview. I'm not going to read it because that way I don't want to take up too much time. But anyway, again, we felt as though that this was a very important committee. Selecting a police chief is one of the most important duties or decisions any municipality can make. And it's very critical to the community's success. So we more or less followed to a T the police chief's Article 32, which was the bylaw of appointing a committee to appoint the police chief. And there was 12 members. There was myself as a select board, and in order, the way Kristen did these minutes, which I thought were pretty good, excellent as a matter of fact, it more or less coincided the way the bylaw actually was written in that order. The select board chair was Tom O'Laughlin at the time, and at the time he asked if I could take his place as the alternate, and I said okay. Anthony Bavozzi, he was the union president. Jody Naseglia as the personnel board representative. Our police chief, James Falvey. Albert Correa as the Finance Committee Chairman, Doc Heller as the town meeting member, which would probably go under Section 2F of Article 32, along with Attorney Melanie Solomon, same selection, Section 2F, Article 32. Ronald Marino, who would be our police representative. Retiree under Section 2G1, Article 32. Stacy Darling, Section 8, Article 32. Greg Allegrezza, Section H, Article 32. Keith McGrath, Section H, Article 32. And Kristen Melpignano, our HR director, who is a member at large, Section 2G2, Article 32. So we more or less took to a T. That's how the appointments were made. And again, I always would mention this even in press releases and whatnot. We have a very diverse roster. The members represent a very good cross-section of our residents. All of you do reflect professionalism, integrity, and commitment to Milford. And in addition, the roster is very sensitive to the various issues and are often germane to this type of hiring process. They all possess deep understanding and needs of the unique characteristics of Milford, which more or less makes a close to perfect committee for this important decision that we would make. Our first meeting was on January 31st. I was fortunate enough to have you have trust in me and appoint me as chairperson. Ronald Marino as our vice chair, and at the time we had no nominations for the minutes clerk, and we were very pleased to have Kristen Melpignano volunteer her time for that. Again, we felt as though that where we did have three members that were knowledgeable in police work, the majority of the committee was not, and we felt as though that in order to meet that complexity, that we would hire or look into the possibility of hiring a consultant who would do this on a daily basis or a regular basis and more or less educate us and guide us as we would go along. And that's where we did. We decided at one of the meetings we had that we were going to go forward with a consultant, and we sent out the advertisements for the request for proposals on March 9th, and they were to be returned April 6th. and we sent them out to 7 consultants that we got from various websites and various municipalities that Kristen and Jody actually researched to find out who they would, who other municipalities used. And we, 3 firms did submit their proposals. They were MRI, BadgeQuest, and Public Safety Consultants. We had interviews with them on April 27th. We interviewed all 3. It was a long night. It went from 5 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. And we decided that after listening to all 3, that we would go with Public Safety Consultants. And at the time, just to let everybody know too, we all know that, but the public to know that we did not have any cost at that time, so we did not want that to influence at all as we were interviewing the consultants to say that consultant was good, but he was cheaper. We had no idea what the costs were, and it come to find out that Public Safety was the lowest bid, and to me and to the rest of the committee unanimously, the most qualified. Now with the process, we sent out the job description, and they went out May 19th. They closed June 23rd. We had a total of 19 applicants. We had some as far away from, we had most of them from Massachusetts, from as far away from Nevada, Tennessee, South Carolina, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. What happened with that is once they were received by HR, Chief Stevens and his crew, who was a lead consultant for PSC, reviewed them and more or less felt as though that out of the 19, 10 actually qualified and met our job description requirements. It was then noted that we were fortunate enough to have a very good selection of candidates, even though there are at times many municipalities are facing police hiring shortages, more so with police chief hiring shortages. We had 1 acting chief, 6 deputy chiefs, and 2 lieutenants that actually submitted applications for us. With that, after that, they had a written phase to more or less screen these candidates for the best, and we all know what the written phase was about. They gave us questions to ask, and Chief Stevens and his staff put them in a questionnaire form and sent that out to the candidates. And from there, they scored them. And then they would meet with us, and they then decided what would go on, who would go on to phase 3, which would be the oral phase. And after review of that, the initial 10 candidates were cut down to 6, and 6 of those candidates went to the oral review. At that time, we learned that one of the candidates, who was a very good candidate, actually took a job in another municipality as a police chief. Therefore, we only had 5 that would go to the oral phase. The oral phase was done with Chief Stevens and Chief Sampson from the consultant firm. And what they did is they recommended 4 candidates to come forward to the assessment phase, which would be phase 4. The assessment phase was held here on August 19th. And from there, what it was more or less a situational, maybe Chief, you can help me out. It was more or less like a situational phase where they would ask various situations and how they would react to it.
That's correct.
And that way they could get a better understanding. So here we have a written phase. First of all, we had a screening phase. We had a written phase, an oral phase, and now an assessment center phase, which I think was very well covered. And again, throughout this whole process, I can say unequivocally with such a high degree of confidence that no member actually influenced another member. Not one other candidate was actually brought up during this process. We listened to our consultant. We questioned our consultant, especially Doc Heller, which I thought was pretty good. We made sure that everyone was on the same page and everybody was very out there to let us know that they were out for the benefit of the town of Milford. And with that, after the evaluation assessment center, they had that knocked down to 3 candidates. And our bylaw says that we forward 3 to 5 candidates to the select board for their consideration, for the interview and an appointment. Here we have the meeting dates to let everybody know, or the committee reminded you on how much work we put into this job. okay? We met since January 31st. We even had a tour of the police station. We interviewed our consultants. It was, like I said, we were busy from January until now. We really were, and I appreciate that. And with that, I do have a closing note that I put down in my appreciation for the team's hard work that you had. The goals, objectives, and purpose of bylaw Article 32 were fulfilled. I deeply appreciate every member of this team for showing relentless effort for this cause. I want to offer my sincerest gratitude for their work, commitment, and to this important committee. And I say it, and I said this very honestly, I am honored to be among all of you. We also had a very well educated and very well knowledgeable consultants, and they helped us through this. They guided us through this system, and they had a structured approach, which I thought was second to none, and I appreciate all that. On the next page, I do have our expenses, which I thought was very good. Again, we appropriated $50,000 from the ARPA funds. Our total expense for the consultant was $12,500. Our advertisements for our RFPs for the consultants and also for the job descriptions for the chief was $1,611.86. Meals and coffee, that included the pizza that we had when we were interviewing the consultants back in April, and also when they had the, on August 19th, when they had the assessment center, we had coffee and muffins and also water and sandwiches for the consultants and for the candidates. So the total that was spent for this entire time, for this important type of decision that we had to make was $14,361.86, and we're going to be returning to the Treasury $35,638.14. So I thought was pretty noble of this committee, and you should all be proud, right, Albert, as Finance Committee Chair? Right. Again, what I did is I have a letter that, to each committee member that I have, because like I said, I really can't say enough on how good everybody was here and how proud I am. Dear committee members, I deeply appreciate every member of this committee for showing relentless effort for this important task of selecting 3 candidates for select board interviews and appointments for our next Milford Police Chief. The interviews are scheduled for Thursday, September 21st at 5:30. Since January 31st, we have kept the meetings moving, allowed all members to have their say, and all our meetings ended on a positive note. Feedback was always welcome in helping to plan for our next meetings. With our teamwork, we met the goals, objectives, and purpose of this bylaw in a reasonably timely fashion. The town of Milford greatly benefited from your expertise, enthusiasm, and civic pride. I thank you for your friendship and the opportunities I had to learn from you and your work. And I remain sincerely yours, Paul Mazzacane. Anyway, thank you so much. Any questions on that? No, good. Then moving forward on the agenda, the next item on the agenda, and the last item on the agenda, is if there's any suggestions anybody may have to improve the process. Hopefully, we won't have to go through this process until quite some time, but if we do, something that we could suggest to select board or a town meeting or to HR. Anybody have any suggestions? Or no?
Maybe in the future, they should just have a committee to look at everything and see if it's all necessary. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Just,
yeah.
As time comes closer.
Sure. Yeah, in other words, review the present bylaw that we have now, that I believe is 20-something years old, right, Kristen?
Oh, yeah.
It's up there. And more or less say that, do we need all this now? Right, very good. Thanks, Chief.
Ollie, the one thing that people said the committee's too big. Mm-hmm. I think it's the right size, because by having it as spread out and diverse as we made it.
It's a good representation of the town.
And you can't stack it.
Right.
Anybody that wonders, could you stack the committee? you can't stack 12 people from all different backgrounds. So I think it was worthwhile having everybody. I think the best thing that happened is there were no politics involved.
Right, right.
You know, my hat's off to the, when you're here, it's hard to talk nice about you while you're here, but to the police members, because they went out of their way not to
They
influence
did.
other people.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's
Very
really
noble.
impressive.
And
Very
our
good.
chair did a great job.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely.
It's not easy to tame all these people.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
Under the
You kept me
circumstances.
busy, that's for
And
done.
especially keeping us on track, right? With good agendas, on track, ready to do business.
Well, thank you for that. And like I said, we're having the interviews Thursday. They're starting at 5:30. From 5:30 to 6, there'd be one. I'm sorry, they're starting at 5. I'm sorry, we're looking at my agenda here. They're starting at 5, and it's going to be from 5 to 5:30, the first person. From 5:30 to 6, the second candidate, and from 6 to 6:30, the third candidate. So if any member would like to come, you're very welcome. We'd really appreciate that, too, because that way you
So
could
it's
actually...
actually going to be at 5 o'clock instead of 5:30.
It's going to be at 5 o'clock, Doc. I'm sorry about that. I've been screwing up my times, and Stacy could attest to that.
Okay.
Yeah, did I put 5:30? Son of a gun, what the hell's wrong with
It
it?
wasn't 5:50.
Yeah, it's better than 5:50, I know. Yeah, it's,
Just one comment, and I think everything was good, and I had the experience of being on one, prior to this committee, and that was a whole different, ballgame. That was more of a circus that went on with that one, but we won't get into that. But again, as I said at the last meeting, personally, I still would have liked for our committee to had the 3 candidates in front. We were fortunate, most of us know 2 of the candidates because they're in town and everything on that, and we had personal. But if Mr. Murphy walked into this room right now, we wouldn't know who he was or what he was doing here. And I just felt that sometimes we went this far. I know it was important when I was on the prior committee that we interviewed, the last thing we did was had them come in, and we asked them individual questions, and just the way that they presented themselves to the committee and everything else. Probably wouldn't have made any difference, I'm sure it wouldn't have, to what we gave to the selectmen, but for me, it just seemed to be an incomplete process in my mind. Again,
Yeah.
except the vote that we had, there were, I think, 3 of us that voted to have them come here, and the others felt that it wasn't. And I just, like I said, I'm going to show up on the 21st because
that'd be great.
I'd like to see what they say, but, and I know, Tino and Sanquioni, but, Murphy, I'd just like to see
that's right,
the
yeah.
person and see, does he meet what we said that we anticipated? And I'm hoping that it's, that he's going to be what we think he is, as far as from what we know beforehand. But it could be that he could lay a bomb and say, what the hell did we do? So again, that's just not, just
And
my
I
opinion.
appreciate that, and I
in
thank you
the
for that,
future.
Doctor. Thank you. Thank you. And like I said, the only reason why that we did vote, with the majority, Doc, is like you just mentioned too, is that, we had to send 3 to 5. We already had 3, so what would the interviews have done? I understand what you said. You'd like to see who are we sending to the select board,
Yeah.
which makes sense.
Just kind of,
Sure. Anybody else? If not, thank you so much, really, from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate it. Thank you. It was my first time doing this, and I was a little nervous at first, and you people made it all so very nice and easy for me. Thank you. Motion to adjourn.
One question.
Oh,
I
sure.
have one question. So as far as the committee, we're still at committee, and I think the selectmen have the authority to disband the committee.
Right.
So hypothetically, if 1 or 2 of the applicants got hit by a truck yesterday.
Which is why we can't
Technically, this is
dissolve
why
it today.
we're still here.
Right, and that's
Okay.
why they want to wait for, 7
Yep.
months or whatever, in case they need us again.
Yep.
Within that time.
Okay.
We're already appointed, we're already here. Why dissolve, and now they're going to reappoint again?
Yeah.
Right?
Good.
Motion by Albert, second by Keith. All in favor? Aye. Motion's adjourned. Thank you so much.